Have you ever caught yourself saying, just this once, one more time won't matter, I'll deal with it later? You knew better, you felt it wasn't right, yet something in you still leaned closer to that line. Not because you don't care about your life, but because a part of you keeps wondering, what if nothing happens? What if the warning was too much? What if you can get away with it this time? So you step closer and closer, and now you feel it. That quiet tension in your chest, that restlessness you can't explain, that mix of defiance and regret that leaves you unsettled. The truth is, you weren't just testing a boundary, you were testing reality itself, hoping maybe consequences don't apply this time, hoping you might be the exception. But your soul knows better, and that's why even when nothing dramatic happens, something inside you shifts. Your peace gets thinner, your thoughts get louder, your clarity starts fading, and even if you tell yourself it's not a big deal, deep down you know it is. This isn't about punishment, it's about misalignment. Because you cannot keep doing what you know is wrong for you and still expect to feel right inside. And that friction you feel is not weakness or failure. It's a signal that your life is moving in a direction your spirit doesn't agree with. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. Not to hurt you, but to wake you up. If you're honest, this was never just about the behavior. It's about something deeper. The late-night emptiness, the quiet loneliness, the need to feel something, anything. So you reach for what's easy, what's immediate, what numbs the moment even if it costs you later. Because in that moment, relief feels more important than truth. But temporary relief always creates long-term unrest. And you may escape for a moment, but you return more divided than before. Somewhere along the way, you started treating boundaries like suggestions, warnings like opinions, and conviction like an inconvenience. But boundaries were never meant to control you. They were meant to protect you, like a parent saying, don't touch the fire. Not to limit you, but to save you from harm. And yet you keep standing near what you already know can burn you, still asking how close you can get instead of asking why you keep going back. And here's the hard truth. Just because nothing has collapsed yet doesn't mean nothing is being damaged. Because some things don't break loudly. They erode quietly. Your peace, your focus, your self-respect, little by little, choice by choice, until one day you realize you're tired. Not physically, but emotionally drained from constantly negotiating with yourself. But this is where everything can change. Not with a dramatic moment or a perfect decision, but with one simple shift. Stop asking how far you can go and start choosing what brings you peace. Not excitement, not escape, but peace. Because real freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's no longer being controlled by what weakens you. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You already know what's been costing you. You've felt it. So instead of stepping closer to the edge again, step back. Not out of fear, but out of respect for your own soul. Because peace is waiting on the other side of that decision, and for once, you don't have to learn the hard way. And maybe the hardest part to admit is this. You didn't end up here overnight. It was built slowly, quietly, through small permissions you gave yourself when you were tired, when you were overwhelmed, when you just didn't want to think anymore. And those moments felt harmless at the time, almost deserved, like you needed a break, like you earned a little escape. But over time, those small allowances turned into patterns, and those patterns started shaping how you feel about yourself, how you show up in your own life. And now you're not just dealing with one choice. You're dealing with the weight of repetition, the kind that makes you question your own discipline, your own clarity, even your own identity. And what makes it heavier is that you still care. You still feel that inner pull, that quiet voice that says, this isn't who you really want to be. And that tension between what you're doing and what you know creates a kind of exhaustion that rest alone can't fix. Because it's not your body that's tired. It's your spirit trying to carry two directions at once. You want peace, but you keep feeding what disturbs it. You want clarity, but you keep choosing what clouds it. And deep down, you know those two things cannot exist together for long without something in you starting to crack. And still, there's a part of you that hesitates to let go. Not because it's truly good for you, but because it's familiar, because it's been there in moments when you felt alone, because it gave you something when you felt like you had nothing, and letting go of that, even when it's harmful, can feel like losing a companion. And that's why change doesn't just feel like discipline, it feels like grief. But don't confuse that feeling with truth, because not everything you miss is meant to stay in your life, and not everything that comforts you is actually healing you. Sometimes it's just delaying what needs to be faced. And the longer you delay it, the more power it seems to have, until it starts convincing you that this is just who you are, that this is as good as it gets, that change is too hard, too far, too late. But that's not reality. That's just the voice of a pattern trying to protect itself. The truth is, you're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you've been negotiating with something that needs a clear decision. And clarity can feel uncomfortable at first because it removes the option to pretend. It forces you to face what you already know. But it also gives you something you've been missing: direction. Because once you stop debating with yourself, once you stop revisiting the same argument over and over again, something inside you begins to quiet down, not instantly, not perfectly, but steadily. And that quiet is where your strength starts to return, not loud, not dramatic, but grounded, stable, real. And you don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to become a completely different person overnight. You just have to stop going against what you already understand. Because every time you honor that inner clarity, even in a small way, you rebuild trust with yourself, and that trust is what creates lasting change. So if you feel the urge to go back again, to revisit that same line, to test it one more time, pause, not to fight yourself, not to shame yourself, but to remember what it's been costing you. Remember how you feel after. Remember the heaviness that follows the moment of relief, and ask yourself honestly if it's worth it, not just for now, but for who you're becoming. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about what you do, it's about who you're shaping yourself into, and you deserve to become someone who doesn't have to hide from their own choices, someone who can rest without guilt, someone who feels aligned, not divided. And that version of you isn't far away. It's built through decisions like this, quiet, unseen, but powerful. And every time you choose peace over impulse, clarity over confusion, truth over temporary comfort, you move closer to that life. The one where you don't have to keep starting over. The one where you're no longer exhausted from fighting yourself. The one where your mind finally feels like a place you can rest in, not escape from.